So welcome to another fly tying video. Today I thought we would do something a little bit different. It seems like you all liked my salmon fly video, the Silver Doctor, a lot, so I thought we should do another one, and this time do it right. I have a pretty small hook in my vise. You can see it's barely bigger than a spool of uni floss. We're not going to be using that today. This is going to be a very traditional, classic salmon fly, tied in a very old school way. Of course, back in the days they wouldn't have a vise like I'm having here, and I'm also going to be using a bobbin holder, simply to make it easier for me and for you to see this. The thread I'm using is this one, and this is Gutermann thread, which is basically equivalent of Perseil's gossamer, and this is obviously waxed with cobblers. Right, so this is a blind eye hook, so you know I'm gonna have to tie in a piece of gut. I'm not gonna be using real gut. I'm gonna be using this nylon, and I like to just have a thick piece of gut on my flies. I'm gonna be fishing with this one, so I'm gonna start just by placing it in with just a few turns. I'm gonna leave some bare hook shank at the front here, and we're gonna go ourselves a little bit forward to make a nice eye. There we go. By the way, the fly we're going to tie is the Dunkeld from the Ephemera version of the Dunkeld, which is a fly I really like a lot. So, alright, so there the gut is in. You know, I'm gonna go a little bit further. We're not gonna have a very big eye on this fly, so, but I'm gonna start trimming down these butt ends now after the gut, and this is quite a project in its own. And for those of you who are new to classic salmon fly tying, you probably will just be tying in, you know, just the front here and taper off quite quickly. Since this is a fly I'm going to be fishing with, I'm going to do the full gut. So the way I start here is by take out this. So the way I start here is by trimming off one by one of these strands. You know, I'm going to leave some longer than the other. I really should use another pair of scissors for this, but oh well. And the reason you trim this in different lengths is to get a much better tapering on the body. I want to get that far. This is going to have a tinsel body, so alright, so there we go. Now I can start to tie myself backward here and tie these in. This thread is very heavily waxed, so and this is also a very strong thread since it's silk. I'm gonna take the longest one there. I see I have a few very long ones here. I'm gonna trim them a little bit shorter, just like that. Now this is gonna be a fairly long video, and I'm gonna be concentrating a lot, so I'm not very sure if everything I say will make complete sense. Alright, so there we are. The gut is in. We're ready to start on the tag. Alright, so the tag of this fly is going to be flat gold tinsel, and this is proper metal tinsel. And as you can see, I trimmed it angle. This is really sharp, by the way, and you can use a nail to sort of polish it out a little bit here, and to also get a little bit of curve into it. I'm gonna make it a lot easier to tie in. As you can see, this is the way I'm gonna hold my tinsel to tie it in. And if this was a thicker tinsel, I would have made it tapering much longer. But this is only gonna be a tag, you know. I'm not gonna bother too much with it. So tie it in and make a few turns here. And you know, as this is metal tinsel, you gotta have to be a little bit careful because it's very quickly to cut the thread. Alright, so now I can start placing down my tag here. And as you can see, I'm placing this tag on bare hook shank a little bit before I work myself a little bit upwards here. I want a slight taper on it, not too much. And yeah, I think that's about enough. Alright, so when you tie it off, you just make one turn, and you can simply just tie yourself a little bit over that. So alright, so there we got 2 turns. Now what I'm gonna do is, I really should have another pair of scissors for this, I'm sorry, but so now I can just go in here and I can again trim it at an angle, and I just fold that over right there. Right, so now it's time for the tail, and here I have prepared the feather, pulled back some of the fibers, and I'm just gonna tie this in now straight on top, just like this. As you can see, I haven't trimmed any fibers off this one, and that's simply to make sure I do have enough fibers, and if I do it like this, you know, I can just take a few fibers back. I'm gonna pull in a little bit here, and there we go. As you can see, this tail is not perfect, but for a fishing fly, to me that doesn't matter, and it is, you know, as you can see, straight on top. So I'm gonna keep it like that. As you can also see now, we're starting to get a pretty big bulk at this area. You know, so I have to make every turn of thread count to make sure this doesn't become too bulky. We're gonna have a butt there, but now I'm happy with the tail. I can simply just go in here. I'm gonna trim there. Alright, so I'll shorten the tail a little bit more. Please bear in mind that flies from the mid 19th century, they have a lot longer tail than what you would normally have on, you know, Jock Scots and Silver Doctor, Green Highlanders and whatnot. This is a very specific way of tying them. Next now is the tail veiling, which consists of 2 very small jungle cock feathers, and here I have a nice little pair. Alright, so I like to, you know, when I prep them, I match them up just like this. And then I could take them in my hand here and I can trim the ends just like this. So now you can see, well, gonna trim them even a little bit more here. Alright, so on the plate in Ephemera's book, it looks like the jungle cocks are placed flat as a veiling. So, and the way I've done it on my flies, and this is a fly I fish with quite a lot, and I tied probably a dozen of these ones, is that I take the feather facing downward, you know, and I place it on top like that. So they're hanging quite low, almost on the side of the tail. And then I do the same on the other side. And there you go. That's how I want to have my tail. Now I can lift them a little bit here, and now I'm gonna place the turn right there. Now this is how they look in the plate in the book, as I said. So here is the butt that I've chosen. I prepped it a little bit just by swiping it through my mouth a few times, and I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna place down one turn right there, one turn right there. Alright, so now we're gonna start wrapping this butt, and you know, this butt is a very weak part of the fly. So what I like to do is to take just a little bit of varnish here and just slightly moisten the area with varnish. Alright, then I can take my hackle pliers here. So then I'm just gonna start placing down the butt very carefully. I'm just gonna take my thread a little bit away here. Now you can see I make quite a big butt section on this fly, but you know, I will reduce it a little bit, as I'll show you in a second. Right, so there we go, the butt end is tied down. Now to make this butt a little bit smaller is that I moisten my dubbing needle simply with spit, and I can just, you know, force the fibers of the herl backwards like that. Alright, so now I can trim this end off. There we go. Right, now I'm gonna tie in the ribbing, which is gonna be on the far side here. This is, by the way, is a twist, so I'm gonna get myself turned back, and I'm sorry again if this tying is a little bit clumsy and not as neat as it could be. As I said 100 times before, you know, this is a little bit awkward for me because I have the camera in the way. And now it's time for the hackle, which I prepared earlier, a yellow hackle, and I'm going to be tying this in front of the ribbing, right there. And now we're going to work ourselves back here a little bit. The hackle wasn't very well prepared, but you know. Right, so there we tied in the hackle. It isn't perfectly prepared, but next we're going to tie in the body material, which is the flat gold tinsel again. And again, as you can see, I have trimmed it into a very sharp angle here. You know, that one we are gonna tie in on the far side over here. I'm just gonna make sure I have it the right way. It's a little bit awkward, sorry if you can't really see everything here, but there we go. Now I'm just gonna tie ourselves all the way back to about there, and then we can start to work ourselves forward again. And yeah, I've trimmed off the butt ends. Yeah, the important thing is, you know, that you tie very tight. And you might have the question, you know, can't this pull out? No, it is surprisingly how strong this is. So, alright, now we're going to start to wrap the body tinsel. And you know, this is a really delicate process here, because if you make too much tension here, you can break it also. Alright, so now tying this tinsel off, again, that's something that can be a little bit tricky, you know, because this metal tinsel is quite sharp. But this is how I do it, you know, I try to not use too many turns. I can take my scissors in there. This one I trim. I'm gonna actually trim straight. Alright, so now it's time for the tinsel. I've attached a pair of hackle pliers to it, because I just think that makes the whole process easier. And on the plate you can clearly see that he only has 3 turns of ribbing on this fly. And I thought, you know, maybe we should try that for this one too, just to stay true to the pattern. So there you go, that's 3 turns of ribbing here. Right, so what I like to do with the twist before I trim it off is take a little bit of super glue to this end. And you know, I don't mean to get it onto the fly, but onto the twist itself, because it helps it not untangling. And this is anyway just going to be a end that I will tie in anyway. So just the ribbing, and looks perfect. So now it's time for the hackle. Alright, so now I come up here, and this is where I'm gonna tie this in. So what I'm gonna do now is just pull the fibers away from the stem. Makes it a lot easier to tie in. So this is a great way to do it, you know, when you're trying to not build up so much bulk. There we're done with the hackle. And I'm gonna leave the stem actually hanging out for a little bit, you know, just to get a few more turns to tie it down with. But right, so next is the throat, which consists of blue jay, and blue jay is a very difficult material to tie in, so I'm gonna show you how I prep the feather before you. Alright, so the way I'm preparing the blue jay feather is by simply taking away the tip, just like this. And then I hold quite tightly over the stem, and then I simply start to pull like this, splitting up the stem. And then I can simply just split up the stem like this. Alright, so then I can simply go in with my dubbing needle and take this few top fibers right here and the very end of the piece of stem, and that will be my tie-in point. Alright, so I zoomed out a little bit, and here's my prepared blue jay feather, and I'm just going to be tying this in by the very tip. Now I can just fold this back. I'm going to take off one turn. Now I'm going to fold back all these fibers here, just like that. Now I can work myself a little bit forward here with one turn, and at this point now I can trim this one off. And you know, I have no preference, you know, if it was a left feather I would tie it in the right way, but because this is a right feather, I'm gonna have to sort of cross tie it in, but it doesn't matter much. Okay, so that was 2 turn. I think that is enough, you know, and I don't need to go into the thick part of the stem. And I tied it down with 2 turns. Now I just fold everything back, making sure I have everything tight, and 2 more turns there. Okay, I'm gonna trim them. So, alright, so there's your throat. Now I can trim off the waist end, and yeah, there you go. This does look a little bit messy, but you know. Alright, so now it's time for the wing of this fly. It should simply consist of a slip of peacock wing over a slip of bronze mallard. And this wing should be fairly long, about there, a little bit shorter than the wing. Again, we're gonna moisten our fingers, you know, just to make the tie-in point a little bit softer. So there we go. If you can get it on the first try, you know, that's the best luck. And there you go. That's the wing. It's even a little bit too long, in my opinion. I'm gonna shorten it up just a little bit here. You know, we're getting pretty bulky here. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna go for the hurl head on this fly. It should be hurl head, but so there you go. 1 turn, 2 turns, and you know, if you look at the plate, you know, you see this is a very sparse wing, and you saw how much bronze mallard I had. It compresses a lot when you tie it in. Alright, so next is the toppings, and on this fly it's going to be 2 toppings, and again I'm just using very simple toppings, you know, barely prepped them anything. I trimmed off the waste fibers so the thread gets something to hold on to so they don't slip up. So, toppings, and I'm gotta 100% make sure, you know, that I get the toppings straight on top of the wing. Alright, so let's try tighten that up and see. Alright, so next is the horns for this fly, which is actually double. We're gonna have this blue-yellow macaw horns, and I'm gonna get these in one single turn. Just like that. That's way too long. Alright, so as you can see on the fly in the plate, you know, there is actually quite long horns on this fly. Alright, so just gonna shape this up just a little bit, just like that. Now let's tilt it a little bit, like that. Now it's time for the scarlet macaw horns. And again, I just want to get them in by just using one turn. And just gonna use my tweezers here to sort of get them into length. And you know, I'm not really worried about having them all the same length. Because it shouldn't matter that much. So there we go. I've decided that I'm not going to do a hurl head, simply because the head got very big. So right, so I do with this the same as I do with most other salmon flies I tie. You know, before I make up the head, I like to just get some varnish in here. And as this is a classic fly and I try to stay true to the materials, I'm actually using shellac here. There's like proper old school shellac. Alright, so now I can start to trim this down, and you know, here I'm just going to be trimming very carefully. And be, you know, very careful that you don't trim the gut, you know, because if you cut into the gut, you know, you basically ruin the fly. Alright, there we go. So right, so before I continue again, you know, I'm varnishing up this head in many steps, you know, while I'm building up the head and everything. In my opinion, it really helps to make a very durable fly. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead now and make myself up a nice little even round head. just like that. And as you can see, we can still see the bare hook shank in front here. Alright, so now to finish up this fly, I can still feel I have a lot of wax on my thread, you know, which is good. And I'm just gonna make one single whip finish here, you know, that's 3 turns. That's a lot on this small fly. And there we go. Just take off that little excess shellac. Now I just like to go in with my nail and sort of just try to even it out a little bit. And I can start applying more layers of shellac onto this fly. So as I said, this is a fishing fly, and you know, because of the bright colors, you know, it's a fly that I use on sunny days. I caught quite a few salmons on this pattern on sunny days, you know, when the water is clear. Alright, so there we go. The shellac needs a little bit of time to dry up, you know, up towards 6 to 12 hours. So yeah, that's about it. If you like this video, share it with your friends. This video took me a lot of time to make, and I hope you can appreciate what I put into it, and I hope that you learned something from it. So yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, please write in the comment section what salmon fly you would like to see me tie next. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.